We are the global sustainer for the Department of Defense. Nothing moves without us. I'm Major General Vincent B, Chief of Staff, United States Transportation Command. I think that the events over the last 2 years especially have kind of really magnified just how important the work that we do is. The withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Afghan NEO, Operation Baby Formula. Of course, over the last 18 months, supporting UCOM in Ukraine. It's given an opportunity to really show the people that don't know just what an incredible job USTRANSCOM does and what we do. So I think the thing that's inspired me to join the military the most is just hearing the stories. My dad was an Army veteran. All 4 of his brothers were, 2 of my mom's brothers were veterans. And just growing up, hearing those stories and knowing right away from a very early age, I wanted to be in the military. When I was growing up, if I wasn't out in the woods hunting or fishing or playing sports, I was either with my G.I. Joes or Army men. But I think as far as inspiration, being my dad and all those relatives of mine that had served and hearing their stories and what it did for them. Since I was 14 years old, that's all I wanted to be was a Marine. I got pulled in by the Marine Corps, by their history, the uniform, the discipline. My dad would have rather seen me do something else because he's an Army veteran, but I wanted to be a Marine. He's okay, you go for it, you go, right? You do it, you do it right. And I was talking to my dad on the phone right before I was discharged, and I knew at that time I was going to be going to school at Wisconsin Stevens Point. And my dad says, well, why don't you look at joining Army or ROTC? But there were people early in my career, and then even like in ROTC, that may have felt like, you know, you might not have what it takes to be a really good officer, a senior officer in the Army. The more I thought about it, I'm like, I'm not going to let them determine what I can be, right, who I can be. You own your destiny, right? And I tell my son that all the time. My son's an Army Reserve soldier. I tell him that all the time. Look, you determine what you can do. I was commissioned out of Wisconsin Stevens Point ROTC in 1987, commissioned into the Wisconsin Army National Guard until I transferred to the Army Reserve. My family overcame a lot of challenges over my entire career. Being a reserve officer, you're juggling all these responsibilities. A lot of it was just not having my time. Oh, not to mention the multiple deployments, stateside mobilizations where I was away from home. And I tried real hard not to let those responsibilities detract from my family time, but it's hard. I got to say my family, my wife is great, the best, you know, that keeps supporting me with all that. But I think resiliency is probably one of the greatest strengths that a military person and their family members need to have. You have to be resilient, you have to be flexible, and you have to be willing to accept the challenges that come along with this profession. The logistics is not glamorous business, and people forget how important, you know, sustainment is, logistics is. We are the only nation in the world that has the capability and the capacity to conduct the global sustainment operations that we do. That's what makes us special, right? But just because of the capability the United States has to deliver anything, anywhere, and no other nation has that capability. And I think that's what makes us the global force that we are. Serving for 42 years, what an honor and privilege it is to serve our nation. There's nothing like it. The closeness you have with your teammates, the sacrifice that you make together, that's what makes being in the military special. It's a special group. The level of talent that we have in this organization, top to bottom, is phenomenal. I've never seen anything like it. I've been in a lot of organizations, a lot of great organizations, but I'm telling you, from TRANSCOM is just what an incredible pool of people we have here that not only are talented, brilliant, smart, but dedicated, love their work. Our TRANSCOM teammates, what an honor and privilege it's been to serve with them. I'm awed by you every single day, always will be. It's such Stephanie and I have been so blessed to be here for these last 2 years. We're going to miss everybody here a great deal. You know, it's been a privilege and honor, and I just thank every one of you for it.
Welcome to today's ceremony, where the men and women of United States Transportation Command pay special tribute to Major General Vincent B. Barker on the occasion of his retirement from the United States military after more than 42 years of honorable service with the Marine Corps and the Army. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Beth Brown, and I will be your narrator. The presiding officer for today's ceremony is the Commander, United States Transportation Command, General Jacqueline D. Van Ovost. At this time, we would like to recognize our distinguished guests. Please hold your applause until all guests have been introduced. Major General Barker's wife, Stephanie, unable to join us in person, but attending from a deployed location via live stream is their son, Specialist Seth Barker, and his fellow soldiers from the 395th Ordnance Company. Major General Barker's mother-in-law, Sonia, his sisters, Peggy and her husband Bill, Mary and her fiancé Jason, and Beth and her husband Dwayne. We'd also like to welcome General Van Ovost's husband, Alan, and from the United States Transportation Command, the Deputy Commander, Lieutenant General John Sullivan, and his wife, Jen. The former Deputy Commander, Vice Admiral retired, D. Mewborn, and his wife, Carrie. The incoming Chief of Staff, Major General Susan Henderson. The Command Senior Enlisted Leader, Fleet Master Chief Donald Myrick, and his wife, Giselle. From Air Mobility Command, the Deputy Commander, Lieutenant General Randall Reed. The Director of Operations, Headquarters, United States Army, Major General Heidi Hoyle, and her husband, Demetrius. The Commander, 18th Air Force, Major General Corey Martin. The Commander of the Joint Enabling Capabilities Command, Major General Stephen Jost. From the Military Surface Deployment and Distribution Command, the Deputy to the Commanding General, Miss Christina O'Brien, and the Command Sergeant Major Brian Morrison. The Commander, 375th Air Mobility Wing, Colonel Chris Robinson and his wife, Stephanie. And all general officers, flag officers, senior service personnel, directors, deputy directors, senior enlisted leaders, coworkers, friends, and family joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for ruffles and flourishes, presentation of the colors, the national anthem by Miss Kathy Hahn, and the invocation by Chaplain Eric Light. Color Guard, present the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Chaplain Light will now provide the invocation.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, over the course of history, you have heard the prayers of many warriors who have come to the time to lay down their swords. And even though the passage of time has brought more ease to life and there are modern conveniences to enjoy, the heart of the warrior stands true. And the same concerns for the future are shared by all who have come to this stage of their lives. Father, my prayer today is that you will bless Major General Barker in this journey before him. Please endow him with wisdom that sets his steps, empathy, which brings about patience with others, and a keen sense of awareness to guide his thinking. Lastly, Father, I pray for his family. I ask that you would help them to adjust to the new normal and to draw closer to one another. Thank you, O Lord, for the elements of this ceremony which give proper honor to a promise to serve made many years ago, which has been fulfilled well. In your holy name, I ask these things. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Light. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, we would like to invite Vice Admiral Milborn to the stage to provide a few remarks.
Ma'am, thank you very much for giving me just a few minutes to recognize the service that Vince and I shared for a year. And it allows me to fulfill a promise. He asked if I would speak a year ago is when he asked, which there's probably tells you something about, making an emotional request. But anyway, I'm back. It is great to be here. I feel great about being here. I will tell you, though, I am a little nervous for two reasons. One is I haven't done public speaking in about 9 months, so I'm going to be rusty. The second reason is because you've heard that old adage that, well, you can never go back. Once you're a pickle, you can never be a cucumber. So I thought about, when I come back, I said, it's going to be sad. Only half the people, about half the people won't know me, and the other half will have forgotten about me. And either way, I'm going to have this, experience about the fleeting nature of relevance. And that made me think, though, a little bit about why it's so important for each of us to make a difference every day where we are. So the thrill I have in coming back is to be able to talk about a difference maker, someone who, at least every day that we work together, and I'm sure every day over his 42 years, made a difference. For context, right, if you don't know me or our time together, it started in the summer of 2021 and went to the summer of 2022. It was Vince's first year as Chief of Staff and my last year as the deputy. Now, Vince came in, he had two challenges to overcome without even stepping into the building. The first challenge was he was following someone named Deb Katulich, who is like a secret weapon, right? She was so beloved. The second big challenge that he had was called the Delta variant. And maybe, that you probably have a hard time remembering, but it was the summer of 21 when the Delta variant, right, was dominating the country. And so that was driving an awful lot of policy and other things that was going on. On top of that, then we come with complex operational challenges and organizational changes that Vince had to work through, or we worked through together. It started there in the summer of 2021 with what was called Go to Zero. And this was the orderly but expeditious withdrawal of the last 2,500 military personnel out of Afghanistan. And that sort of just led right into this large aerial evacuation of 124,000 evacuees from Afghanistan. We know the largest on record. We kind of know in this audience what all that meant. But the things that came with it, like craft activation, or trying to figure out how are we going to manage the global air passage of all these people, and then how are we going to manifest them or clear customs, or what are we going to do when they get to the US and move them around? All of those things had to be worked in real-time execution, and everyone was sort of its own daunting challenge. And then there was the change of command. Anytime you do a COCOM change of command, it's a big deal. We had, the Secretary of Defense, and we had the chairman, and of course, there's televised and all this kind of stuff. There was the threat of the Ethiopian civil war that put special forces in the Horn of Africa. There was the Russia, at that point, encirclement of Ukraine, and then followed up, as we know, in the spring of 22 with the invasion of Ukraine. And then that required us to have the rapid response of US and NATO forces, to bring military aid, which is still ongoing to this very day. Maybe you forget about the baby formula shortage, but there was about a 70% off-the-shelf rate in the US for baby shortage. And so we had a lot of work that was done, again, in sort of emergent fashion in the spring of 22. And then at the same time, there was sort of work and policy adjustments that were happening relative to COVID because it was starting to wane and people realized it. So what was going to be our telework policy, and what was the back to work policy? All these things compressed within 12 months. It was amazing, how much that was going on. On top of all that, I had my own life drama. I was in the first year of a doctorate program and figuring that out. I was getting my general aviation instrument rating. My youngest son came to live with us. My father-in-law died. I had to retire, right? So it was going through all the VA hurdles that many of you have been through, as well as, the retirement dinner and the retirement ceremony and a household goods move. And I got COVID the last week before I left. So through it all, what I would call a tumultuous year, there was Vince. And he demonstrated, kind of a foresight, an alignment, an optimism, right, that helped get me through. He, I think, did more than just for me. He allowed the outgoing and the incoming commander to really focus up and out where they needed to focus. I could focus horizontally, and it allowed him to focus down and in, get to know the staff. He maintained sort of a rigorous open door policy, which meant, as you heard, everything that went on in his office, which was talked about last night. But that also meant that it was inviting and warm, and he got to know the staff quickly, and he identified problems, and he went immediately to work to fix them. He never complained, despite all of this work, never. And he never thought that something that we were doing was just too hard. And in the course of it all, he provided sage advice, with one exception, and that was the time that you wanted to take the whole command and do some run around the base or something like that. And I said, I didn't think that was such a great idea. But he certainly provided steadfast support. I tell you, in my experience, and maybe you can relate to this, it's tribulation that really measures the true character of a person. Another Wisconsin hero, maybe you've heard of this guy, Vince Lombardi. He said sort of the same thing, but he said it this way: it's not whether you get knocked down, it's whether you get up. In the challenges of our year together, Vince always got back up. And because of that, I sort of think that maybe he showed that he's an aviator at heart. He got the job done, and he always maintained a sense of equanimity and a great sense of humor. Cool, calm, and collected in the face of whatever the circumstances were. Had the ability to laugh in the face of crisis and then go have a spotted cow. That's a beer, by the way. Not a cow, which is something else. So many of you, though, I can hear the chuckling. You're probably saying, that's preposterous. Vince would never be an aviator. Allow me to show you what that image just might look like. Yeah. In 40 years, I never looked that good in a flight suit. So I've thought all of these years, or over the past year, why would he go to this effort? Why would he, not only take the time and trouble to do it, but why would he risk the ridicule of every Army person for 1,000 generations, right, to put on a Navy flight suit? I think maybe part of it was because of our good friend Zach Hall, who was really deeply conspired in the gag, was able to get the flight suit, put on the patches. He made it quite effortless. But I also believe that this was Vince's way of showing me that he really had the aviator right stuff. He chose to wear pink and green. So as he hangs up that uniform today, I think it's time for him to express his true inner self. So Vince, I want you to have an authentic Navy flight jacket, right? That you can wear it with pride out there in Wisconsin. I got the heavyweight, right? Because I think you're gonna need it in the winters up there. But you can put your patch on there, and wear it with pride and knowing that you do have the right stuff. But I got to tell you, Vince, that the jacket comes with a little advice from the second best movie of all time. Not Stripes, right? But the second best movie of all time, Top Gun Maverick. And the advice is not that you should give up thinking and act out of pure impulse, although that sounds like fun. Now, the advice comes from the scene where Iceman counseled his dear friend, it's time to let go. Now, Maverick tearfully recognized the wisdom in those words, but could not imagine what life would be like without flying Navy jets. I don't know how, Maverick responded. I'm a fighter pilot, a naval aviator. It's not what I am, it's who I am. Here's the so what. After doing something you love for so long, you will find yourself feeling like Maverick. That Army uniform you've worn for over 40 years now, it represents much more, right, than just what you do or did. It has become a symbol of who you are. But what I've learned over the last year is that one's identity is not inextricably linked to their employment, or their unemployment in my case. So regardless of what path you take next, the identity of Vince Barker will always be a humble public servant, an honorable and courageous soldier, a caring coach and teammate, a loving husband and father, and a dear, trustworthy friend. So let go. Don't think, just do. And fly with confidence and knowing that you do have the right stuff to make a difference in wherever destiny takes you. May God bless you, may God bless your family, and everything that you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Muborn. General Vanovos, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Thanks for being with us today to celebrate the lifetime of service of Major General Vincent Barker and his family. Vince and Steph, thank you both for your service to our nation and the positive impacts on countless service members and their families over the past 42 years. Wow, this makes it tough to fully step out of uniform, but it's exciting knowing that you'll be tackling some new adventures together. Steph, you are the rock for which Vince's leadership, success, and happiness rests upon. Thank you for being such a kind and caring person and for your sacrifices as you took care of Vince and the family over these years. You've also been a fun battle buddy for Alan and the rest of the spouses, and we can't wait to invade the Quezon Canteen in the future. Now, I also want to thank Seth for his devotion to his father and mother. Seth, I was honored to spend Easter dinner with your parents. They think about you every waking second, so most of the dinner conversation was about you, buddy. It was immediately evident during our conversations that your parents' love for you and your service is amplified through your service in the Army and deployment now in CENTCOM. They are so proud of what you're doing out there, and you should be proud for extending your family's amazing legacy of service. I also want to extend a warm welcome to Vince's extended family for celebrating this special day with us. First, I want to mention Vince's parents, Glenn and Carol. If Glenn was still with us, he would be unbelievably proud of you, Vince. Glenn was an Army Korean War veteran and an avid hunter whose example became a driving factor in Vince's decision to join the military. And to Carol, who may be watching online, we wish you could be here with us today. It's been an honor to serve with your son. We appreciate the influence that you had on Vince, especially his personality. We benefit from the lessons you instilled in him. Your sense of humor, your kindness and humility made him a great man. It's a true testament that is the love that he has for his 4 sisters. Now you heard that right. Vince was the only boy of the 5 Barker children, and we're grateful for their influence on teaching him how to be personable and never have a doubt about the capability of women. Welcome to Peggy, Beth, and Mary. Thank you for making the trip from Wisconsin. And Tina, we wish you could be here with us, but I know that your mom appreciates the company. Additionally, welcome to Stephanie's mother, Sonia, visiting from Appleton, Wisconsin. Thank you all for traveling and for your presence and support. Finally, thanks to all the extended family, friends, and mentors with us today. We appreciate everything you have done to develop this amazingly successful leader. Let me start with a quick story. Early on, I think Vince knew he had the potential to become a general officer. In fact, he called it. Do you remember that? Del Norris sure does. Where's Del? There you are. Del remembers. Let me take you back to 1982. There you were in Okinawa. The 2 of you were stationed there as Marines. Del mentioned that he was out late enjoying a few beverages, only to return to Lance Corporal Barker, the most squared away Marine that he had ever met in his 6 years of service. Lance Corporal Barker's stern presence made everyone believe that he owned the Common Bay. Lance Corporal Bay testing Barker's dominance for order. "Get into your bunk," barked Lance Corporal Barker. "To hell I will. Who do you think you are?" replied Norris. "You better or else." "Or else what?" chuckled Norris in his disbelief that Barker actually had any authority. "Or else you'll regret it. You know, someday I'll be a general and you will mark my words." Del Norris did just that. In 2015, Colonel Vince Barker was promoted to Brigadier General. Mr. Norris recalls that this was one of the most jaw-dropping moments in his life. Actually, after, really out of pure happiness and admiration for Vince. And in this very moment, we are having similar feelings for Vince and his family out of pure happiness and admiration. Trust me, everyone has a General Barker story because he didn't just impact others, He inspired them. Today marks the completion of 42 remarkable years of uniformed service, and we are overjoyed that a family which has fought so ferociously for others to enjoy the American lifestyle of liberty and happiness will soon fully enjoy the same for themselves. Such a long commitment does not manifest from sheer grit, but is inspired through the love that impassions it. Vince loves his country. Knowing since age 14 he wanted to be a Marine, Vince enlisted 5 days after he graduated from high school. He went to basic training at Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. Like most new recruits, he questioned his decision to join the military, and he questioned whether he would survive the transformation from civilian to Marine. The young native of Wisconsin was going to prove to the world and to himself that a country boy can survive, just like Hank Williams Jr. sung it. Vince overcame his doubt and survived. He moved on to 29 Palms and certified as a communications electronics clerk. His first deployment was to Camp Courtney, Okinawa, to serve the 3rd Marine Amphibious Force, where he met his lifelong friend Dell. At the end of his tour, he moved to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, to serve the 2nd Marine Amtrak Battalion. Now, Vince's 4 years in the Marine Corps, his service was nothing short of a personal demonstration that this country boy would be steadfast to national security during tumultuous times. You see, the Beirut barracks bombing occurred in October of 1983, followed by Operation Urgent Fury 2 days later. Both were kinetic jolts in the Cold War that tested most service members' resolve. But everyone in the audience, you know Vince's grit. He wouldn't merely survive the jolt, but rather reforge his commitment with the determination of Ulysses S. Grant. You see, Major General Grant had suffered considerable losses at the Battle of Shiloh during the American Civil War, with over 13,000 casualties. Brigadier General William Sherman, Grant's division commander, lamented to his commanding general, "Well, Grant, we've had the devil's own day, haven't we?" Grant replied, "Yes, lick 'em tomorrow, though." This was one of the most inspirational quotes that Vince had ever read. He, too, was gnawing to lick America's adversaries in the proverbial tomorrow of his life, and he knew the way to do it was to be an officer in the United States Army. Sure, Dell and Vince's other Marine brothers and sisters can gloat about how stunning they looked parading around in their Charlies, but this country boy had to be all he could be, and he knew he could be more following the gallantry of Ulysses S. Grant. Or maybe it was the heroism of Bill Murray's portrayal as a soldier in the movie Stripes. Controversial. But look, if being all you could be was plowing into Czechoslovakia in an urban assault vehicle, shooting rockets from a 1976 GMC Palm Beach motorhome, then he just had to join the Army. All right, Vince did become a soldier, a successful artilleryman, whether credit is given to General Grant or Ben Murray. But first, in 1985, he entered the University of Wisconsin at Stevens Point, and as I heard last night, not to be confused with West Point. Commissioned through ROTC. From 1987 to 2000, Vince served the King of Battle, the Artillery Corps, as a fire team support chief, fire direction officer, fire support officer, and battery commander. Not surprisingly, Vincent Barker was a top performer in everything he attempted. Certainly, his talents are a reason for his success. But at the heart of it were the values he learned to live by. Vince sought to live the golden rule. Anyone who has been so fortunate enough to serve with Vince in any branch of service and any assignment knows that he's one of the most personable leaders. You may not be surprised by this, but those who don't routinely work with officers, let alone general officers, well, they were a bit surprised. Many have stated, including the late Colonel Zach Hall, that they actually forget that he's a general officer. Rather, they just know he's a person worth following, a true inspiration to challenge themselves to be more. In September 2001, the world stopped. Defending the homeland had a whole new meaning. The Barker family supported Vince as he focused his attention on the American war machine. It also became the turning point in Vince's career to become a branched logistician. After serving as a logistics officer for the 213th Quartermaster Battalion, he transferred as the battalion executive officer for the 521st Maintenance Battalion, still branched as an artilleryman the entire time. This speaks volumes to his talents and leadership. Because of who he is, he was entrusted to lead logistics units as an artilleryman, and he achieved exceptional results. It dawned on Vince that logistics were, in his words, the pistons of the war machine, and he needed to be right there. Vince successfully went on to numerous logistics assignments, including mobilization officer during our Operation Iraqi Freedom and Chief of Reserve Affairs, deploying reserve units to Central Command. Vince then transitioned to a second favorite assignment, behind TRANSCOM of course, to become a motor and rail officer. This positioned him to become the commander of the 757th Transportation Battalion, the only rail battalion in the Army. Soon after command, Vince deployed to Afghanistan as the commander's Action Group Executive Officer in support of the 82nd Airborne Division. It was here where he was branched as a multifunctional logistician. During this deployment, Vince said he felt like he contributed most to the War on Terror, given his role as the board president on the Detainee Review Board. Here he oversaw the proceedings of whether detained Afghans would be released, remain in detention, or move to Gitmo. Vince returned home, promoted to colonel, and then took command of the Army Sustainment Command's Army Reserve element in Rock Island, Illinois, where he was charged with enhancing the readiness to support global operations. And of course, he crushed it. His leadership clearly shined as he was able to execute his command's core mission while serving his active component customers and increasing recruiting by an amazing 29%. It's no wonder he was promoted to Brigadier General, and the Army wanted to give him another command, this time the 310th Expeditionary Sustainment Command in Indianapolis. As a commander of 7,700 soldiers and their families, Vince provided mission command of 2 regional support groups, a sustainment brigade, a military history detachment, and a financial management support center partnering with Army South and the adjacent National Guard units. Vince's positive leadership style, strategic communication skills, and engaging presence vastly improved the mission, morale, and motivation of this entire command. He was lauded as one of the Army's most capable leaders. Following command, Vince served as a deputy commanding general for the 377th Theater Sustainment Command, the largest 2-star command in the U.S. Army Reserve, with 35,000 soldiers and civilians spanning 34 states. It was in this position that he deployed over 1,900 soldiers, supporting 102 taskings around the globe. He revised sustainment support relationships for the defense support of civil authorities, resulting in centralized mission command for operational level forces in response to Hurricanes Maria, Florence, and Michael, all occurring within 12 months. He was then offered the unique opportunity to utilize his deep logistician experience and deploy as a general officer to Iraq as the Director of Sustainment for Combined Task Force, Operation Inherent Resolve. Vince had just arrived when he was told to clear 5 bases in 5 weeks. It was a tough task, but like Grant, he was gonna lick 'em. Vince attributed the success to his people, of course, but also to TRANSCOM. You see, it didn't really dawn on him how impactful TRANSCOM was until he saw the waves of C-17s descending into the theater and pulling out all of the units he was charged to retrograde. Little did he know he was being looked at for a position working directly for the same combatant command that left such a positive impression on him. But first, Vince went on to be the Deputy Inspector General for the U.S. Army in Washington, D.C. Now hold on, I know what you're thinking. How could the nicest guy on the planet be selected for one of the most critical and inquisitive organizations in the Department of Defense? You know, how'd that work out? Well, successful, of course, but it did come with some mixed reactions when he called his friends just to chat. You can imagine, there was Brigadier General Vince Barker's name popping up on caller ID. You know he works at the IG. You know you don't want to know why he's calling you. You know you have to pick up. So you answer the call and you get, oh, no, it's not about work. I just want to talk. Wow, you see, it only takes one specific assignment to make the most personable soldier in the Army one of the most avoided people in the Army. However, fortunately, that didn't last long when he received a call about becoming Chief of Staff at TRANSCOM. Happily accepting, and not just because Illinois is closer to his home state of Wisconsin, but Vince developed a special place in his heart for TRANSCOM. And General Lyons was not likely going to accept a no either. And when Vince reported to TRANSCOM, the command was at a sprint, protecting itself from COVID-19 while ensuring we could provide senior military and political leaders strategic flexibility to project and sustain the joint force around the globe. It was a tough situation. And you heard from Admiral Mewborn how hard Vince worked as a crucial leader in the headquarters, executing our COVID-19 protections, leading the headquarters response cell, telework initiatives, and about his significant contributions during Afghanistan Go to Zero and the non-combatant evacuation operation. Amongst all this, I took command of this amazing organization. Now, I do have to agree with Steph here. He did look a little GQ in his pink and greens as the commander of troops in front of the formation at the change of command. Look, Vince is decisive, calm, cool, and collected. Traits we look for in all of our leaders. And certainly the qualities necessary to temper the natural stress of a transition, much less a combatant command level transition amid a pretty rapidly evolving strategic environment. Vince ensured a smooth transition for me, and I could tell through his staff interactions he was well respected, even loved by others. He was decisively engaged across the staff, keeping the strategic battle vision on an even keel while consistently improving the operational effects of the entire command. With teamwork and flat communications at the forefront, Vince assisted staff principals in pursuit of major initiatives like establishing the Defense Personal Property Management Office, the Joint Operations Mobility Planning Center, and led the complete overhaul of our continuity of operations plans, including our facilities. None were small tasks. And of course, he assisted in hosting numerous DVs and speaking engagements to help the public understand the critical mission of Transportation Command. And then there were a few Pentagon marathon meetings that he attended in my stead and the DCOM's instead, for which he will never get that time back, and I'm really sorry. Look, Vince, you threatened to become a GO thinking that that was where the power was, not as a Lance Corporal. But you learned along the way that the authority comes from trust and respect, no matter what position you're in. In fact, you mastered the art of mission command at all levels, increasing warfighting readiness and demonstrating trust through empowerment. I was struck by one comment in your records that you consistently demonstrated the moral courage, integrity, and character through the toughest of times. That was clearly demonstrated as you helped lead the command, not just through our transformation to understanding the impacts of contested logistics, but through our devastating loss of one of our very best, Colonel Zach Hall. I could not have had a better leader by my side as the Chief of Staff and as a friend over the past 18 months. All right. You did it, Vince. This country boy from Wisconsin sure can make it and do more than just survive, but thrive. You became all that you could be. Thank you, Vince, for your selfless service to our country. What a legacy you have left. Such an incredible impact and inspiration for thousands of others. No pressure, Seth. No pressure. Thank you, Steph, for your strength, which allowed him to be the servant leader that we needed. You've let your own legacy of selflessness and dedication that has had a positive impact on all of us. And now we return him to you, but with a real fighter pilot jacket, so that he can be Tom Cruise or Bill Murray or both. Thanks for including me in your momentous day. Thanks once again to your family and mentors who supported you throughout the years. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, and I just said about 3,000 of them. So let me end by sharing with you some memorable pics that really capture Vince's service. Take a look.
life living off the land. Steady hands and a clean soul. It breaks his heart seeing foreign cars filled with fuel it isn't ours, and wearing cotton we didn't grow. He's got the red, white, blue flying high on the farm. Semper Fi tattooed on his left arm. Spent a little more in the store for a tag in the back that says USA. He won't buy nothing that he can't fix. With WD-40 and a Craftsman wrench, he ain't prejudiced. He's just made in America.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as General Van Ovos presents the Defense Superior Service Medal to Major General Barker and remain standing for the publishing of the retirement order. Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Defense Superior Service Medal to Major General Vincent B. Barker. Major General Vincent B. Barker, United States Army Reserve, distinguished himself by exceptionally superior service as Chief of Staff to the Commander, United States Transportation Command, Scott Air Force Base, Illinois, from May 2021 to May 2023. During this period, General Barker's steadfast leadership, decisive vision and oversight, and critical communications posture proved invaluable to creating an agile and resilient combatant command workforce during an unprecedented global pandemic. Consistent with the commanding general's guidance and top priority, he implemented a revised Chief of Staff model, providing a key venue for the alignment and integration of headquarters staff elements and component command chiefs of staff, focused on current and future transformational initiatives to achieve command priorities and contribute to the accomplishment of the Secretary of Defense's lines of effort. He championed modernization efforts across the command through the change management and knowledge management programs to increase and amplify shared awareness and mutual understanding of the commanding general's priorities and all mission activities. Finally, General Barker directed a complete revision of the command's continuity of operations plan, instituting a decentralized, multi-nodal approach and transitioning existing policies and operational procedures to a whole-of-command initiative that supports continual programmatic evaluation and enhancement in pursuit of comprehensive mission resilience. The distinctive accomplishments of Major General Barker culminate in a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Reserve, the United States Transportation Command, and the Department of Defense. Please remain standing for the publishing of the retirement order. Attention to orders. Special order number 4645642. Major General Vincent B. Barker, effective 1 June 2023, you are relieved from duty per Army Regulation 135-156 and assigned to the retired reserve in the grade of Major General by the order of the Secretary of the Army. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. At this time, Major General Barker will be presented his Certificate of Retirement. It reads, Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America to all who shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Major General Vincent B. Barker, having served faithfully and honorably, is retired from the United States Army on the first day of June 2023. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army Chief of Staff. Mrs. Barker, will you please join your husband on stage? Every retiree receives a special retirement pin as a memento of his or her service. At this time, we'd like to ask Mrs. Barker to place this pin on Major General Barker's lapel to symbolize his transition from active military service to retired status. This pin stands as a testament of his service to our great nation. To all who see it, know Major General Vincent Barker has met all challenges set before him and has served our country with pride, honor, and dignity. Every successful military member knows and understands the value of the contributions of his or her family to the member's career, especially the efforts of their spouse. General Van Ovos will now present Mrs. Stephanie Barker with a spouse certificate of appreciation, which reads, Certificate of Appreciation to all shall see these presents greeting. This is to certify that Mrs. Stephanie Barker, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible your spouse's lasting contribution to the nation. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army, Chief of Staff. Thank you, Mrs. Barker and General Van Vost. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Transportation Command Joint Service Color Guard will now make a special presentation to Major General Barker. It is only fitting that those who defend this country be honored with a presentation of the flag of the nation. Today, Major General Barker will be receiving a flag that Specialist Barker flew at his deployed location in honor of his father's retirement. For more than 200 years, the American flag has been the symbol of our nation's unity, as well as a source of pride and inspiration for millions of citizens. Born on June 14, 1777, the Second Continental Congress determined that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternating between 7 red and 6 white, and that the Union be 13 stars, white in a blue field, representing a new constellation. Between 1777 and 1960, the shape and design of the flag evolved into the flag presented before you today. The 13 horizontal stripes represent the original 13 colonies, while the stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well. Red symbolizes hardiness and valor. White signifies purity and innocence. And blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Traditionally a symbol of liberty, the American flag has carried the message of freedom and inspired Americans both home and abroad. In 1814, Francis Scott Key was so moved at seeing the stars and stripes waving after the British shelling of Baltimore's Fort McHenry that he wrote the words to the Star-Spangled Banner. In 1892, the flag inspired Francis Bellamy to write the Pledge of Allegiance, our most famous flag salute and patriotic oath. In July 1969, the American flag was flown in space when Neil Armstrong planted it on the surface of the moon. Today, our flag flies on a constellation of Air Force satellites that circle our globe and on the fin flash of our aircraft in harm's way in every corner of the world. Indeed, it flies in the heart of every American who serves our great nation. The sun never sets on the flag we so proudly cherish. Since 1776, no generation of Americans has been spared the responsibility of defending freedom. Today's military remains committed to preserving the freedom that others won for us for generations to come. By displaying the flag and giving it a distinctive fold, we show respect to the flag and express our gratitude to those individuals who fought and continue to fight for freedom at home and abroad. Since the dawn of the 20th century, America's military has proudly flown the flag in every major conflict on lands and skies around the world. It is their responsibility, our responsibility, to continue to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and freedoms that we, as Americans, enjoy today. The United States flag represents who we are. It stands for the freedom we all share and the pride and patriotism we feel for our country. We cherish its legacy as a beacon of hope to one and all. Long may it wave. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our honoree, Major General Vincent B. Barker.
Thanks, Beth. Where's Mark Blahnik? Blahnik, where are you? Patent flag. Patent flag, right? Yeah, cool. Have we still got Kuwait on? Are they there? Seth, you there? Sort of have them. There they are. So, first, special welcome to the 395th Ordnance Company, Seth and all his teammates over there, Camp Ref John Kuwait. Please, big round of applause for the 395th Ordnance Company. I feel like I'm on a Fox NFL Sunday game or something. This is awesome. We're so proud of Seth. More about him later. But his teammates there at Captain Erickson and all the 395th folks, thanks for joining us, staying up late for us. Well, sort of late over there, I guess. Not too bad. But so glad. It makes it so special that Seth and y'all are with us. So thanks, everybody, for coming today. I know we got a lot going on, and some of you have to get back to work. Not me. But so I'll try to be brief. So this is probably the most unprepared remarks I've ever had. I've never had this much of a trouble trying to come up with what I need to say, what I want to say. And I thought it'd be the easiest one that's the hardest. So I'm just going to wing it with some notes, and just bear with me, and we'll see how it goes, okay? So after following Admiral Mewborn and General Van Oberst, I feel a little bit like Edward Everett. And nobody here probably knows who Edward Everett was, because he was the other guy on November 19th, 1863, that spoke at Gettysburg before President Lincoln. So that's why nobody knows him, right? So that's how I feel. I'm not the articulate, focused, great speaker that John Van Oberst is, ma'am, or the eloquent storyteller that Admiral Mewborn is. Thank you, sir, for making the trip up here for this. Appreciate it so much. So one of my favorite quotes from General Van Oberst is, if there's no emotion, there's no investment. And that's true. So with 42 years, you're going to get some emotion. Whew. Okay, so all right. So some quick thank yous to everybody that put this thing together. I got to do it. Michelle Updike, my exec, awesome, great work last night and today. By the way, great time last night. Those of you who were there, awesome time. It was just a blast, special event. Beth Brown, our narrator. Thanks, Beth, even with her ponytail. Captain Harris, Ms. Hahn, our awesome national anthem vocalist. I've heard in the last 2 years, I've heard you do it maybe 10 times. Gets me every time, and today was super special. You're awesome. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Color guard, holy cow, best looking professional high-speed color guard I've ever seen. Right here, joint color guard, flag detail, chaplain, great job. 395th Air Mobility Wing owns this hangar. Where's Chris? Where are you at? Chris Robinson. There you are. Good friend, teammate, Chris Robinson. Thanks, Chris, for setting this up. Awesome work. Thank you. Hey, mute your mic out there in Kuwait. So, I want to see General Reed. I saw you here. Thanks for coming, sir. Appreciate it. Great to have you here. Some other teammates, Jester's here. Awesome, brother. Great to see you. Thanks for making the special trip up. General Carroll, General Ainsworth. Who else? I don't know, everybody. But Walrath, everybody. So, just really appreciate y'all being here. Ma'am, thank you for hosting. I can't tell you, and we said this last night, we've said it last couple of days. I can't tell you how much you and Alan mean to Stephanie and I, both professionally and personally. You always be special to us. It's been an incredible honor and privilege to work for you, ma'am. I really appreciate it. So hopefully we can get you up to Wisconsin for EAA or something. I really would love it. So thank you, ma'am, very much. And my newborn again, and Carrie, welcome. Thanks for coming up here from Virginia, Maryland. It wouldn't be the same without you here, sir, so I appreciate it. Of course, my sisters, 3 of my sisters are here, Peg, Mert, and Beth. Brother-in-laws, Billy and Dwayne, and Mary's fiance, Jason. Thanks for coming. Like they mentioned, my other sister, Tina's up north with Mom. So, as General Vincent said, I had no brothers. I got 4 sisters. We had a very small house, 1 small bathroom. So you get very close, right? And we were, and we still are. So thanks for being here. They've been to try to come. We can never get them all 4 together, ma'am. But we got most of them here today. So that's great. Hold on a second. Okay. So I want to talk a bit about my dad. We've been talking last night and a few of this past week. He was my biggest influence in joining the military, growing up, hearing his stories and his love for the Army and for service. All his brothers, my uncles, all served, all 4 of his brothers, 2 of my mom's brothers, 1 a Vietnam veteran, 2 of my dad's brothers, World War II Korean veterans. And by far the biggest influence in my joining the military. And then, so when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, I'm talking to Dad on the phone. Of course, Dad was never, he wasn't a big fan at first of me joining the Marine Corps. He thought I should join the Army or something else. But, so I'm getting out of the Marine Corps, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and by that time I know I'm going to Wisconsin, Stevens Point. And he says, well, why don't you look at Army ROTC? All right, Dad, I will. So he's the one that really gave me the idea to do it. And so here I am. So I give my dad all that credit, and he was so close. We lost Dad on March 23rd, and he'd been counting the days with me since last summer. And so Mom is now counting the days for him. And I can't wait to get up and see Mom here very soon. And give her a hug. So, and a kiss. So, but today is not about me at all. It's about Stephanie and Seth. I'll cover them later. And it's about all of you here and many others who brought me to this place at this time. It's about Senior Drill Instructor Staff Sergeant McNeely back in July of 1981. We're at the MCRD San Diego Confidence Course, and I'm 50 feet high on the skyscraper log obstacle, scared, you know what, at the top, trying to get over the top log, and I'm stuck up there, right? I'm like, you know, like Pyle in Full Metal Jacket, right? I'm stuck up there. And earlier that morning, we were going over a different obstacle, and I had stolen a sea ration. Now, that's how old I am. We had sea rats back then still. I stole a sea ration can of peanut butter because I was starving. I stuck it in my cargo pocket in my pants. When I was going over the obstacle, it fell out. Not a good thing. And he found it, of course. He said, I'll address this later, private. So we'll get up to the top obstacle. I'm up there, I'm freezing up there. He's like, hey, he called me Four Eyes because I was wearing those really cool black glasses, you know? And he said, hey, Four Eyes, you get over that obstacle, I'll forget about that peanut butter I found this morning. Roger that, sir. Over the top I went. Motivation, courage, all that stuff. So thanks to him for that. It's guys like Mark Palzer who pushed me out the door, out of my comfort zone, when I was happy to work for him at the 213th. Figured this is where I want to be for a while. It's like, no, you need to move on. It's time for you to move on, do bigger and better things, and become battalion XO, and get out of your comfort zone and work for Bob Rochelle. And it's guys like for Bob Rochelle, battalion XO. This is in 2002, 2003. Global war on terror starting. We're at the 521st Maintenance Battalion. Things are cranking up. And the worst time for me to go, right? But I had the opportunity to deploy. I asked him, and he said, "You go, right? We can handle this. It's better for you, professionally and personally, that you deploy. We got it back here." And that's a lesson I learned then. I continue that on to this day. If one of my soldiers or servicemen ever wanted to deploy, you go. We'll figure out a way, but you need to go. So thank you, Bob, for that. It's the Jason Walraths, who through his constant ribbing, badgering, mothering, harassing, and his humor, got us through a real tough deployment in Afghanistan in 9/10. So thanks, brother. Great for being here. Now you've got one up on Scott Morcom. So thanks for being here. He come up all the way from Texas. It's the Mark Blaniks, the funniest person, hands down, the funniest person I ever met, and who taught me more about Army Rail than I ever thought I would know. At the time I took the Rail Battalion, Seth at the time was a big Thomas the Tank Engine fan. I think he knew more about railroad than I did. But Mark got me up to speed really fast, and we had a great time. It's the Les Carrolls, the Steve Ainsworth, who taught me and many others what it meant to be a general officer. And I mean that, gentlemen, I mean that. I call it GO 101, and they were both excellent at it. And one of my favorite quotes from General Carroll, who's also an incredible speaker, he said, "Remember, Vince, you don't need a new speech, you just need a new audience." It's the John Sullivans, Lieutenant General John Sullivan, our deputy commander, back in 2020, nearing the end of my deployment, and I had a health scare. They rushed me off to the Camp Air Force John Hospital, and I'm in like this. I went to sleep for like 5 or 6 hours. I wake up, I'm kind of like this medicated fog, and the first person that came to see me, I was not in this chain of command, I was not in this unit. We worked together, but I was not in this chain of commanders unit. The first person that came to see me was Major General John Sullivan. I'll never forget it, and so I really appreciate that. I'll never forget it. And so, a little bit about General Sullivan. People think that he's this gruff business guy, hardcore, take no prisoners type of guy, right? And he is. But he also, there's no one I know that has more care and concern for his soldiers and his service members than do anything for them. I've seen it many times, just like he did for me. I've seen it many times. And so I really appreciate that. You're a great role model, and I've learned a lot from these last few years, especially this last year. So thank you, sir, for your friendship and your mentorship. And Jester, our Chief of Staff, Wood Oyer, he was the second guy that came to see me in the hospital, right on the heels of General Sullivan. So Jester, great to see you here. So when I found out I was coming to TRANSCOM as Chief of Staff, I was at the Pentagon in the IG, like the boss said, and I said, I need to talk to Jester. I need to know what this Chief of Staff stuff's all about. He worked downstairs in J5. He came up, gave me some great advice, and off I go. So thanks for that, Jester. Appreciate it. And it's also about those who we've lost. And I always mention three now of my best friends we lost over the last 5 years. Sergeant Major Paul Stout, who some of you knew here, great human being, great father, great leader. Lost him right after I deployed in the fall of 2019. Steve Everker, who's in some of those pictures, we lost him in the late fall of 17. Great friend. So Steve's wife, Julie, is here today. Came all the way up from Augusta, Georgia. Julie, could you stand up, please? Julie's a great friend and a great example of what it means to be resilient, strong, and love. So thanks, Julie, for being here. And of course, our own Zach Hall, who we lost last August. Incredible human being, great friend, the provider of the flight suit, ma'am, in that picture. You know, Zach was one of those guys, if you didn't like Zach Hall, then you're the problem, not him, right? That everybody just loved it. He's just incredible. So his wife, Katie, couldn't be here today. She's with us last night. We'll see her later today. But I want to mention Jack because he was such a special friend of ours here, and he'll always be special to us, right, Steph? And so before I get to Steph and Seth, I can't miss my mother-in-law. I almost did this at my one-star change of command, and General Carroll caught me on it. You can't forget the mother-in-law. That's the last thing you want to do. We kind of forgot her last night, even though we did, but I'll make up for it now, Sonia. So Steph and I could absolutely not be here and not do this without the support that Sonia, that you've given us all these 29 years together, 26 years of marriage. All the times I was gone, deployed, mobilized, away from home, that you helped Stephanie and Seth, even when Seth was still working and you were taking care of Seth. All the security, the love, the patience that you provided for us over the last 26 years. Thank you, Sonia. She's my second mom. Thank you, Sonia. Love you. Yeah. And of course, finally, I get to Stephanie and Seth. So I'm glad I can't see Seth too good because it's kind of dark on there. But he's my hero. There he is. He's my hero. He's another great example of what resilience is, what strength is. And I miss him. We're anxious to see him. I'm so glad he could join us today. So thanks, everybody, that put that together. We're so proud of you, son. Just hurry home safe, okay? And of course, Stephanie, I would not be here at all. I'll still be a young captain somewhere running around, but I would absolutely not be here without your love, support, patience, resilience. Just an incredible mom, spouse, friend. So we're going to try to do this together. Somebody was saying last week, we'd talk about how different it is when you retire, and they're like, well, remember those oaths you took when the pledge you gave when you were married, for better or for worse, but not for lunch, right? So we can, now that we got our property up north, if you ever get tired of me or get, you know, I need to be some away time, you just kick me out up north and I'll head up north for a bit. But you know, but you can't make up for lost time. But we're going to make the best of what we have and try to do as best we can with you and I and Seth, everybody up north, the family. I want to reconnect up there as well with everybody. So that's all I have. Thanks again for everybody being here. Everybody that traveled from all over. I missed Mac and James Reed last night. Came out, my VFW buddies from Pennsylvania. Thanks for coming out here. I'm coming out there spring turkey hunting next year, James, so be ready for that. Thanks for coming. Everybody, Heidi and Dee, for God's sake, we could have not pulled this off without them this week. Everything, the dinner, the planning, the program, the koozies, those $30 koozies you got last night with your free meal. Dee and his sister designed those. So thanks, everybody. It's been absolutely my highest honor to serve here at TRANSCOM, ma'am, under you. Oh, yes, flowers. How could I forget that? Sorry. It's okay. We're winging it, ma'am. We're winging it. Okay. So Stephanie said up front she did not want flowers. Instead, we made a donation to the local animal shelter in Appleton in memory of our beloved dog, Sam. So thank you, honey, for doing that. Okay, now, ma'am, it's been my highest honor to serve, really has served for you under USTRANSCOM. Thank you to General Lyons for bringing me here, so blame him, ma'am. What a great way to end a career with all you incredible teammates and folks here, except for Boz. But you're all welcome anytime up in Wisconsin. You want to come up to God's country and have some fun, just please come up. We're always welcome. Thank you for being here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the great time last night, and thanks for being here. Thank you very much.
At this time, with the assistance of streaming technology, sorry, you can have a seat. Wasn't in the script. At this time, with the assistance of streaming technology, Specialist Seth Barker will render his father, Major General Barker, his last salute before he is officially retired.
General Barker, you're relieved. Dad, I just want to say how proud of you I am. I love you, and I can't wait to get home to you soon. Thank you for everything. Give the general a hand.
Thank you and congratulations, Major General retired Vincent Barker. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Army Song and the Marines Hymn, and remain standing for the departure of the official party. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's ceremony. Please join General and Mrs. Barker for a receiving line in the front of the stage and a reception at the back of the hangar. Thank you all for attending and sharing in this special day.